Good evening, citizens. My name is Ban Shattersong, former captain of the Bloody Hands Mercenary Company. And today I have a couple extra guests with me to talk about Navarre, the vines, and also the spicy chaos fruit that we shall all be enjoying in the near future. But please, Finn, Merlyn, introduce yourselves.
Oh, hello. Um, Hi. Immediately. Oh, what do I do? I'm freezing. I'm Finn. I play Riffle in Kraken's Crawl. You can call him Riffle or Riff for sure. I like the confusion. I play a guide and started creating a group known as the Vines.
Hi, I'm Merlyn. I play Aisha Akaim, although that's changing next thing, hopefully. I joined the Vines in my first event, although obviously nothing was sworn for a while longer, and I've played one since. I do nothing else other than that. And I enjoy it a lot, so thank you, Riff.
Fantastic. I believe you two wanted to drop a disclaimer before we dive straight into the Vines thing. And for reference for anyone listening, I have had very limited contact with the Vines and what they do, so this is more education for me and all of you, the masses out there, in potentially double, not quite single digits, but we'll see. Um, what did you two want to disclaim?
Shall I
We
go?
are just two Vines, aren't we? We're not all the Vines. We don't
Mm-hmm.
speak for all of the Vines. So yeah, anything we say is just our view on it. There is a lot of sort of internal politics going on, and regardless of which side you're on it, it's all I see and it's all good fun.
Yeah, it's still very much we're still settling on definitions, where we go,
Yeah, it's
that
very in
kind of sort.
progress.
Gotcha. So it's generating lots of that juicy player versus player political roleplay that
To a
Empire's built
degree,
to do.
yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right then, let's start off with an incendiary question then. What are the vines and what is their job?
Amazing. They are. Yes, wow. Good question. Why? The vines are a type of way to play a Navarri, a martial Navarri. It's sort of a solution to the healer blob, where they are partners with each other in the kind of sense of the Great Dance, and they, team up in pairs of two or sometimes groups of three, and they take to the front lines, but as healers rather than as fighters, but ready to fight if they need.
Yeah, the way that I see it is it's all about priority. So, as far as I'm aware, a vine is a subsection of the Navarre healers that will take the field. You don't necessarily have to be high combat, but you have to be willing to fight. We work in pairs or sometimes threes or fours. It's not just a tactic, it is literally an oath of loyalty. They come first, you fight for your partner, and we work sort of as a mini unit. Um, yeah.
Yeah, because the in context of Navarre, I appreciate that there's this kind of pairing up, threeing up, that does correlate very heavily to the Great Dance. That idea that your souls have spirits who ebb and flow throughout your life. So some people who play vines tend to have one or two characters who they really gravitate towards and always go out on missions with, whilst others, every single time they go out on the battlefield, they'll find someone else to join with.
Mm.
The other part that makes them feel very Navari to me is that idea of sacrifice, which is it's one of my big hearth magics, and it seems very important in Navarre. You're kind of giving up your safety, similar to how a thorn would, because you're going to battle, but you're basically getting in there in the front lines, but refusing to be a burden to the thorns. You're not the healer. Oh no, the healer's in danger. Protect them. You got to be ready to protect yourself,
Mm.
so the thorns can do
Yeah.
their thing. Yeah.
Because a pair, it's sort of expected that one person will heal, one person will protect. So instead of having it be a case of relying on the people who primarily fight, we sort of have a give and take, a sort of ebb and flow. Again, back to the Great Dance and how we all move. But yeah, to me, one of the things I wanted to get out there really quickly is the pairs are not just a battle tactic. I've heard this from quite a lot of people struggling
Mm,
to understand the concept of
yeah.
the vines. You are almost giving up part of your autonomy. For me personally, I would never, if I went through the Sentinel Gate with my pair, I'm not coming back alone. either we're coming back together or we stay there together. And I think for me, that sacrifice is really important. You are two people, but you're functioning as one being, moving as one being, fighting
Yeah.
together, healing together, and protecting each other.
The flowery description I like to go with is the bond between two vines is the bond between your left leg and your right leg. As long as they're both up and running, you can keep moving.
Yeah.
And that's how
Gotcha.
that's it. Yeah, it's not just a tactic. It's the movement, it's the autonomy.
That was actually going to be one of my questions because
Oh,
having a buddy system is
That's not unique as a tactic at all, and we're very
no,
aware of that.
but it's surprisingly defining. So
Mhm.
that's
yeah.
how it's made its way in there. I think actually if we're gonna flowery language for a second.
Oh, please,
Someone
Finn,
there was
romance
oh
me.
yeah, well thank you very much. Oh, shall I compare you? No, it was Gwillem, who I often vining up with, at one point came up with this very beautiful flowery phrase of vines entwined support the thorns so that the flower of Navarre can bloom.
Oh,
And
I love that.
yeah, everyone in that discussion just kind of turned their head and went,
Yeah.
"Ooh, yeah, okay,
Yeah, that's it. We're done. GG.
yeah." There you go. Wipe your hands. There you go. It's
Yeah.
a whole thing now. But
If
that
I
was
can just
go
quickly
on.
address the elephant in the room regarding fine definitions, as we said, this is just our side.
Yeah,
I personally do focus on the battlefield healing side of the vines, just because I feel like that's a big sacrifice we give. There are definitely people who identify as vines that work in the hospital. I personally feel like, as much as we do want to be inclusive, part of the thing that makes the groups in Empire special is their differences. And I feel like what hospital healers have is really special, but it's definitely different. So, just for me personally, I would not identify that as a vine. But I was told by my most common vine pair that I should say that because a lot of people disagree with me. So, there we go.
Interesting.
no,
So
honestly,
you'd have, because you mentioned earlier there was vines and there's also an alternative healer blob, which I'm assuming the name is pretty self-explanatory. Would you say that a vines you'd never have a solo vine, they'd always be in a pair or a three, ideally. And would they take any kind of oaths or maybe do tattoos on each other to reinforce that pairing, that bonding?
so as I like to see it, so how do I even start that? There is a kind of iconic running symbol in the vines. It's this red diamond that we usually have tattooed somewhere on our
Ah, okay.
faces or whatever. I like to tattoo mine like on my throat for Riffle
Yeah,
because it's
mine's on
like
my neck as well.
yeah, they go. It's that whole like on my throat be it kind of. It's
I think it's really important that it's visible as well. I was talking
yeah,
to Nairin about that. She has hers on her cheek, and I was like, it's got to be visible. It's almost like a brand. You should be proud of it. It should be visible. It's not something that you want to have to be pulling back 3 layers of clothing to see.
yeah, and it's
I
it's
think
pretty
that's quite important.
iconic. Yeah, being visible, being iconic. It's helpful for everyone in Navarre, especially when you're on the field, to see that symbol being like this is the person who's taken this oath of I will do whatever I can to get you back. To have that white sash that a lot of people like to wear on their belts. That's not a prerequisite for being a vine, but it's definitely
Yeah, so
an
they're at
iconic thing that
least
people like
in
to do to
Navarre, the ones
be
that are
standing
made
out.
and
Yeah,
handed out are made and handed out by the vines. I think one year I made like 40 of them.
oh,
Um,
that's incredible.
but not everyone that wears them is a vine now, which is an interesting one.
Yeah,
Um,
and one may consider, i.e., me, having a big white sash
Sorry.
does single you out as a healer and an easy
are
and
you
a
talking about the
target.
target on my back?
But
No.
then you have that you work in your pairs, you work in your threes, and you're looking out for each other. So actually having a target on your back isn't that important. This one time, I saw someone basically aiming a bow and arrow at me, and I could just see the guy I was with just had this big shield and was also ironed down. So I just turned my back, and I could just hear the sound of arrow hitting shield. I was completely fine. It was that trust in each other. That's the essence of I got your back, you got mine.
Mhm. And a question for both of you individually. Before the vines became, well, an entity, let's say, were you battlefield healers part of the aforementioned healer blob?
So I think Merlyn, I'm not sure you joined a little bit after
I am
me.
a lava baby. Yeah.
But I'm not much older as a LARP child. My first event was the conception of the vines. So baby me shows up to my first event. I don't know anyone. I've ended up in these groups who are fighting, and I went in with this character who was a battlefield healer, battle mage, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really know anyone, so I just kind of found a healer who seemed a little lost, and I just said, "Hey, you're also a healer. Should we buddy up, buddy?" And then we kind of started getting more in there and helping others, and being that in there healer. And then we saw some other healers, and such thing that
Oh, sorry, Finn, you're
Glitching.
losing me a time, but that sucks. How far back? How far back do you want me to start talking again? Yeah, so my first event, I was battlefield healer. I didn't know anyone, didn't know really what I was doing. I found another healer who was in a similar situation, so we buddied up. And then every time we saw other battlefield healers, we'd kind of be Navarri battlefield healers. We would kind of say, "Oh, have you got your buddy? The buddy system they're doing. This is a hot new thing." And by the end of the fight, every healer that I was aware of on the entire battlefield, in Navarre at least, ended up doing this whole buddy system and being like, "Yeah, I've got my buddy," and we're being accountable for each other. And after that fight, we had the standing, we had that almost debriefing, and I think it was Gawain who kind of leads the quote unquote Vines Council at the minute. He came in and said, "So the Military Council has said that the organization of the
You've gone glitch again.
I'm
no,
seeing if because it's coming in quite quickly, and I'm seeing if my brain can keep up, and it just can't. But
that's all right.
So I think I caught Gawain's leading the council itself, and is that one of the first people you met when you? And so when you say LARP babies, are we talking like 2 events? Because the passage of time has become awfully
LARP
convoluted.
primary school children then.
Okay. Yeah, okay. At this point, we're LARP primary school
2
children.
years,
Yes,
3
yes,
years.
yes.
Done a couple years, yeah.
Okay. That's up. Yeah, veterans now.
My first event was.
Oh.
Sorry, Finn. I'm going to officially cut you off.
Oh fuck! I'm so sorry.
And shift over. Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It happens. I'll shift it over to Merlyn. It was. Oh, I was going to say the same question, but now I've forgotten what the question was. That was it. What got you into the vines, and how did you get sucked in versus what you did before the vines were an entity?
So I started in the year just before COVID, so I had exactly 1 year of events. My first event, I just went as an apprentice. I didn't take any skills. And I did sort of 1 time apprenticing in the hospital, and I sort of enjoyed it, but I just remember like hearing all the noises from the battlefield and being like, I kind of want to be there. Like I really enjoy the healing, and I've never really seen myself as like a frontlines combat character, but I also had a frustration with it. And then I was trading mana with the Foxton, I think, and I met Gawain and my OC friend Rosie, who later became one of my first Vine pairs. She was doing it, so I apprenticed with Gawain and I went on the battlefield, and I was immediately like, this is it. This is where I want to be. This is what I want to be doing. And the Vines were already like strongly becoming a thing by then. It had been a few events. And I loved it. The only thing I found frustrating was I wanted to like be moving faster. A lot of how I survive and how I see myself as most effective is in my speed and my agility.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, like me and Rosie became a Vine pair, and it sort of went from there. So in the beginning, it was definitely like we were very like ride or die, we don't want to pair with anyone else. And then we ended up taking on some new players a few times, and after that it sort of became a lot more open. And so a lot of the time I pair up with Illy and Guil, and we go in a 3, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, they're great. Yeah.
And we specialize in the suicide runs then, because they're pretty tanky as physics go, and I can do things a lot faster than they can, so we really get in, do the deed, and get out. And I've really been enjoying that as well. So yeah,
I would really like to add
in
that.
between.
The 3.
Oh no, Finn, you've been had.
Am I still?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still
unfortunately so.
This is
Like the thing is, I've got like having known Finn for a few years now, and the sheer energy you can put out. I'm imagining like just the mental image I have at the moment is you in your room and you're like kind of flitting between the desk, the wall, the ceiling, but it's like entirely natural. None of it's supernatural. It's just the raw Finn energy, and just trying to squeeze it out through the mic. But
I just like the idea that just Riff is like fighting for purchase and it's like, no, no, give me the mouth, give me the mouth. I need to talk.
yeah, there's like a little like blur of the face as like the tattoos are starting
The
to fade
tattoos
in.
keep flicking in and out. Yeah.
But so with you and sorry, OC Rosie, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. So was that how you two met at LARP, or were you friends beforehand?
We've been friends since like second year of high school, so we've known each other a long time. Um, Originally, I found out about LARP and I told all my friends about it, and they were all like, "That's cringe," except for Rosie, who was like, "Yeah, we need to do this." And then I found out about Empire when I was 16. I was like, "I'm going, even if I go alone. Does anyone want to come with me?" And I got a surprising amount of people that were like, "Yeah, okay, we've changed our mind. It does sound good." And so I think I brought like 8 people my first event.
Nice, fantastic.
Unfortunately, I didn't realize about the new player thing, so I've never been paid for any
Oh
events.
no! Oh, that is
Yeah, I know.
tragic. Oh, my
I didn't realize
condolences.
I had one after I bought my ticket. So I literally put up on the Facebook chat, so like the first 5 people to respond to this will get their new player discount used. But I made some friends, so it was worth it in the long run.
Absolutely, and because it's always something I've really struggled to tackle and quantify is A, getting people into LARPing, because once they're in, it's kind of like crack. Having never done crack, I don't know if I'm qualified to say this, but it's how I imagine crack to be. Is once you're in, you're in.
You've
But
got to be careful about who you let in though, because I have friends who I've got onto it now and they haven't even been to an event and they're like 2 grand deep and I'm like, guys, you don't have the bank account to keep going at this speed. So
Ooh.
now I feel a little bit like I'm responsible for that, but
you
it's a
got
bit like Warhammer and stuff in that way.
yep.
You get
Well,
people in and then
yeah.
you just watch them spiral.
Yeah, that is 100% my crack opinion is based on getting a couple friends into Warhammer, and they have done the exact same thing where we're like, oh hey, Phil, I'm gonna call you out. Oh hey Phil, what's that you got there? And he's like, nothing. What's in the bag, Phil? Nothing. Absolutely
I
not.
bought all of the Tyranids.
Exactly. Like it's not a starter set. It's not a X, Y, or Z. But yeah, LARP is definitely nerd crack, but it's good. It's good nerd crack. Um, so
This
with
is a good addiction. This doesn't hurt anyone.
yeah, I feel like getting out and socializing with people is always a good hobby, not addiction, hobby. But the actual question I was going to ask was you talked a little bit earlier because for the people listening in, we had a little pre-game chat before starting recording. But the you talked earlier about how you and Rosie sticking together as a pair in the vines. That's how you operate. That's where the really juicy good game because you're building that relationship and also encountering some dangerous stuff. But you also mentioned that some people get mixed in. You get some newbies, some fresh meat for the grinder. What's it like having them pushed into service alongside you and having to keep them ideally alive?
It's a bit of a two-sided coin because on the one hand, it's great. It's so fun watching people come into their first battle and either seeing that sort of amazing bloodlust smile on their face or that like ah. Um, in the beginning, I do it a lot. I think like my second event, Gwen asked everybody who's new to put their hands up. I put my hand up. I still felt new, and then there was so many new people, even just within that one event, that Gwen put my hand down and went, "Not you," and I was like, "Oh!" And then I got given my own apprentice, and I was terrified because I thought I was going to get them killed, but they survived, so it's fine.
Wow,
Fantastic.
you
Um,
clear. Wow.
Oh, hey Finn.
Hi,
So,
Is this
oh my
Finn or
god.
Riff? Has the battle been won?
Riffin, Riffin, Riffin.
I'm right. The horns. Oh, sorry. This is embarrassing. I think I'm back.
Yeah,
Um,
you're back.
where are we at?
Mate, the embarrassing part is I sit looking at my computer talking about a magical world that I only go to 12 days a year, and it's like, 30% of my personality.
Oh
So yeah, don't
god.
worry about that. But
Yeah, sure.
we,
I
we
can. Yeah.
I was just gonna say Merlyn was just saying I was just asking around getting fresh meat in for the grinder
Oh,
and what it's like bringing newbies under your wing and not getting them killed. But then my follow-up
Yeah.
question was going to be, what happens after that? Do they go off and lead their own pairs, and it's kind
Yeah,
of like a
so
pyramid scheme?
generally you have 1 or 2 battles where you're new, and then that's it. And then generally the new people will pair up or form pairs or freeze, and that works quite well. My first event, like having an apprentice, was definitely a shock because I thought I'd have like a nice slow introduction to it. But you know, Finn will attest, the vines are growing so exponentially
Oh,
every event.
yeah.
It's actually quite scary sometimes, but it's
So
amazing to see.
Hmm.
if we're talking getting new people into the vines, I was gonna say earlier, you and Illy and I keep the third one's
Gweel?
Gweel.
How
I
could
know it's
you?
Gweel. How
Gweel
could
is
I?
the
I'm so sorry,
kindest,
Gweel.
most
Gweel,
stern,
this is a
incredible
direct
soul.
apology, Gweel. I love you. You are the three of you are my epitome of Vine. You are the three of you. The way you work is chef's kiss, exactly how I imagine it. Illy, who I lovingly call Illy, I think my second, maybe my third event was a brand new healer who didn't know what he was doing. So when he had our first Vines Council, he was the guy that I took on to go on a skirmish together and just let's get in there and see what happens. And I think I kind of scared him with it because we were like the only two Navarri in there. So he had this really like intense, like skirmishes are quite scary, especially as a new player. He just went in there with me. We just kept up. We kept each other's backs, and we just got in there, healed people needed healing, kept an eye on each other. And when he came out of that, he was amped up. He was talking about how he really got to see that when you're in the thick of it, that bond between the vines is what's really important. And it is just the pair or three of you against the world, and
Mhm.
it's riveting. Yeah. And so I'm chuffed to see him just being an outstanding Vine, especially fighting alongside you and Gweel. Absolutely brilliant.
It's just so lovely as well because like I met Paddy who plays Illy at my first event, and it wasn't even on the battlefield. It was like we were having some drinks by the fire and like chatting, and it was really nice. And he'd just come from High Guard because he wasn't enjoying it in High Guard. He started his first event there.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay,
Yeah,
well, I
so
accept
he
him as
was
an Navarre
originally in
then.
High Guard.
Well, there
Yeah.
you go.
Um
Take that, High Guard.
yeah, lost a good one there. Yeah, we were just having chats and it was great. And then I was discussing it with him and we were all like happy about the vines and all that. And then Ree, who plays Gweel, was talking all over, like they basically joined just after COVID, so they had the longest of darks to amp up. So they were doing some little role play things together.
Mhm.
And so that really got her so immersed in the world already. So their first sort of full LARP thing was Shadows of a Falling Queen,
Oh
the
god,
player
yeah,
event,
That
which
was
was
yeah. I
really
was
high
involved.
combat,
such a
wasn't it?
good one, but also straight into the fire if you're talking about sort of
Oh,
skirmish
terrifying.
combat,
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. No,
but
I was
also
at
like
that
one of
one.
the best events. So good.
Oh yeah, shout out to Erie Lights, who
Yeah,
put on
yeah.
a they
Oh
put
my
on a
god,
great
the
event.
best.
The venue, the event, the I monstered so much in that one because I was the only one from the Thornborn going, so I didn't really want to die in that player event, so I just monstered everything instead, and it was a brilliant time. Yeah,
Oh,
but like
literally like my
again, the
favorite
vines,
times
seeing
as
them
a
out
vine
there.
happened then.
Yeah,
It was
no,
so good.
I saw you from the other side. It was terrifying and brilliant. Um,
Would you
yeah,
say a healthy amount of bloodlust is a good trait for a vine?
Yeah, I think it's
personally, yes.
important. I
Well,
think it's important.
it's that idea of oh no, they've broken through, they snuck through, protect our vines. No, protect sorry. They've broken through, quick, protect the healers. But with the vines, it's the oh no, they've broken through. May the
For
abyss
them.
claim them swiftly.
Oh,
Like
it's great because now and again, like I know we talk about the healer bob. Now and again, you will get a group of vines for like a strategic reason. That's fine. Not the same thing as a healer bob, in my opinion. But it does
hmm,
happen. We have some lower combat vines that sort of stick a little bit further back. It's not to say that to be a vine you have to be hyper combat. It's just that willingness that if push comes to shove, you would fight.
Yeah.
And the great ones, you get a couple orcs or a few Valorn that push through, and everyone's like, "Oh, the healer! Why are they smiling like that?"
Yeah,
And then suddenly, just
because
chaos for a split second, and they're down.
I
It's great.
believe Aisha received a title, a nickname. Am I
Oh
right in thinking
God.
that you were the Executioner for a
Okay, that
while?
wasn't.
I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
saying you. I'm not
yeah,
saying you made it up for yourself. You didn't like give yourself that title, but I heard people just
no.
being like, yes, the Executioner," and I'm like, that is exactly where I want the healers to be.
The thing is, it wasn't even that I'd execute a lot of people. It was in national training. I was
You
just
shouldn't
having
execute anyone
fun
at
with it.
national training.
Well,
Sorry.
I was pretending, but I was
Yes.
having a great time with it. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah, of
doing it as
course.
creativity as I could. Um, like me and Anwin Stormbroke were doing a lot of stuff together. She's got a massive hammer. And James made me like a wooden stake because we were doing combined executions where we were pretending to hammer my wand into the chest of the person we were executing.
Oh, that is so
Um,
metal.
and then
So fucking
yeah,
good.
it kept happening on skirmishes that like whenever I was going to execute, obviously I took it really important that like a lot of people were doing like slashes to the throat and stuff, which isn't cool. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't enjoy it, so I was just mixing up, being
Oh,
like chatting to the person, being like, "Oh look, I've broken this arm and this arm and this arm, and
because
now this body's worthless, Valorn. So get out." Just like
that's a
having a
secret
fun
fun.
time.
The secret fun beneficial role play of being a Vine is you're in the front line stuff, but you're like,
But you
you're
have a bit more
sometimes one
time.
step behind the front line. You have a little more time, so you do get to just be the executioner. I've got my it's basically a baseball bat. It's just this one. It's what I use for spell casting. It's like a twisted bit of wood,
Usually
but
a
it's
rod, isn't it?
yes, it's and I just like this the Navarri bonk stick and role playing the execution is just so good. We're rolling down some druge or whatever, and I can just see one of them on the floor, and like just swing her up, batter her up, just is so fun.
Do
Like
you have a big
of
wind up
course
for it?
you make the eye contact with them, like, okay, I'm gonna execute now. It's a cool we do just a really like slapstick almost, like execute. Oh,
Like
love it.
honestly, when like a Valorn's down and you're there, like you've got time and you're like, "Oh no, this leg's broken." Smack. This leg's broken. Smack. What's happening to your limbs? This body's going to be useless. Um, and that just happened a while, and then I think it boiled down to Anwin was a new priest and was like, "I really want to testimony someone," and I was like, "Sure." So it's one of those ones that's a bit too edgy and a little bit cringe, but it just brings up like so many good LARP memories, and it's hilarious when people are like, "Oh my god, you're a Vine." I'm like, "Yeah," and then like the first time I spoke to Dave and Ian from the LARP Noobs, I was talking to them, and Ian said to Dave, like, "Oh yeah, this is Asia, the executioner." He's like, "I thought you were a healer." I'm like, "I am."
I can make life
I
and I can
am.
take it
Yeah,
away just as easily.
Yeah.
Especially
exactly.
with when I asked about the bloodlust. Finn was like, kind of. You were like, yes. I
Well,
think it's a
so
well-deserved testimony.
as healing goes, what the way I like to imagine Riff in my head when I'm trying to play and getting that he's a jerk is the as a healer someone, oh please heal me, I need the salvation, and just, oh, you need healing, beg for it. Just like I like he's not nice. He's
You've
a
been nothing but
dick.
kind to me, Finn.
Yeah,
Nothing.
well, that's because
This is a
you're
shock revelation.
this is because you aren't my favorite. Well, okay, I can't. Maybe there's people listening who I've also said this to, but
Oh
you are
no.
one of my favorite people out on the field. Like whenever you're in the shenanigans, I am just I'm here with it. There was that one skirmish that I saw you going on, by yourself without any armor, because you love to go without armor and just your bow and being stupid behind enemy lines. And I was just, I want to slice this
Armor is a
pie, so I'm
crutch.
going with you. Mage armor is not armor.
I
And so
mean, sometimes mage armor's all we can do. Okay.
literally. So I was just following you around the skirmish, and you had your bow, and we are nowhere near the forces, and I was just taunting the Druge to come close so I could repel them, so you'd have an easy target. Once you just, oh, good times.
Yeah, I think I've got that exact photo as my
Yeah.
profile picture at the moment. It's a banging because we've got the sun has just come through the top of the canopy and it's just lighting us up like we are the quest givers.
Oh, genuinely,
It's a
like
good
this
shot.
like main character kind of photo there. I
Yeah,
love it.
not as good as the shot of you at a quiet glade in Thurunin.
Oh, why? Thank you. That was my
Yeah,
NPC whose name I've long forgotten. Yeah, no. I have talked to David, who took the picture from the Laps New podcast, about that picture because he won awards for it, and he was so,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, good job, mate. This was amazing. It was amazing. And I was just like, oh yeah, I know, right? So we splitting the prize, and he was face. He was like, oh, I've never thought about that. I'm so sorry. And like, I don't know. I was enjoying the moment. I got this great picture of me. That's totally fine. But in that one moment, the terror on his face when he realized, yeah, I was the subject. Do I get anything out of
Yeah,
it?
I modeled,
Yeah,
so
you get
Yeah,
it's my
yeah.
exposure.
cut.
It's always exposure, Finn.
Literally. Oh
Yeah.
my god. So can I? Oh, sorry. I'm gonna steer the shit for a second. Have
Do it.
we? Whilst I was having my technical issues, have we touched on the big A word? That
No,
is
we haven't.
archetype.
Okay, I was like, what is the A
I
word?
was gonna say,
Assault,
dude.
ambush, where
Yeah, I
are they?
realized that this. Yeah. Because I was gonna touch on this earlier when I started having my mic issues, but
Glitch.
yeah, my glitches. Yeah, yeah. When Gawain came into standing circle at the end of that battle, where I kind of teased the buddy system into existence. He basically said um, the military council said the organization of the healers was fantastic, and I think the player, I think Steve, he's been kind of wanting to create an archetype for a while. I don't know if that's actually the case or not. I can't remember. I'm really sorry. But one of the things that he came forwards with was this is what could be the first step in making a new archetype. And of course, first event I organized these healers into this buddy system. We got commented on, and I was like, let's do some game changing stuff at the moment. Let's leap onto that, and that's where a lot of the internal politics conversation around the vines started.
Yeah, because I don't think it's meant to be an archetype.
Because again, this podcast is the comfortable nest and home of sweeping generalizations.
Yeah,
Oh God,
we've
thanks for
given
that.
our disclaimer.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We
It's
Disclaimer's
said
given
done.
what
We
we
can say
said.
what we want. Navarri archetypes are quite broad
Bland,
yeah.
bland,
and
they're bland.
yeah, and bland, and I think there's a good
I
argument for them to be redone, right?
I love them for what they are. I love that Navarre is so
They are
practical
pragmatic.
that
That's
yeah.
true.
So that is just we have this, we have this, we have this, and but
But they
what I
might
really
be
like about
oversimplified.
they're a bit oversimplified at times, maybe. Um, and so one of the big pushbacks that the whole Vines as an archetype thing hits a wall with is this oath of being ready for battle. Is that not just a thorn? And that's when you start getting these breakout conversations. Are we just thorns? Are we a specialist
As
unit
another
of
disclaimer,
thorns?
we haven't had the official wording from PD yet, have we?
No,
Ooh.
I think last
So
event.
we
I
don't
think
quite know what it's being settled on as.
Yeah, I think last event we kind of had a meeting with one or two of the egregores, and we
Hmm.
tried to, and we were talking about starting a finalizing a definition, and then setting that to the National Assembly to start spreading the word what the vines are. From how that meeting went, personally, I think it may have been a bit rushed, and we didn't
Yeah.
really reach a consensus or an
In my
idea of
opinion,
what's the
all
unit,
the
what's the
things that were
identity.
thrown around, none of them were quite it.
Although
It
that
was
is
a
when we had the vines entwined, etc., flowery language, beautiful thing happened.
yeah,
So something nice that came out of it.
yeah, exactly.
I think I'm intently staring at the archetype page at the moment. So
Hmm.
a thorn is sworn to service in battle. Um, Off the top of my head, you could say that a vine is sworn to support the thorns in battle, but then at that
But
point it
that
does depend
doesn't
on another
work because
archetype.
that also suggests that the vines only work in service of Navarre. And that might be part of our big goal, but it doesn't make any sense. The same as what was the other one that was mentioned, um to support those that fight the Valorn. That's
Oh
not
yeah,
true
no, that one fell
we
through. That
go
one fell through so fast.
because we
When
go on so many other places, but it's
yeah,
also not just Thorns that we support, it's not just people who are fighting the Valorn. So none of it quite felt right, and it was all about our impact everywhere else and not necessarily about who we are.
so
I felt.
Hmm.
so when we were trying to define that unifying identity, for a little while there were people playing with the idea of um we heal anyone who opposes the Valorn. But that
What
was
about the
very
Druge,
controversial
though?
because the Druge opposed
Yeah.
the Valorn, and we're never gonna heal them. And so, like, at that point,
Well,
if
there
this
was
is the
that
arc
one wind. There was that one wind of war.
where they came and helped us, but we stayed
Yeah,
far away from them the whole time.
yeah,
If one
but
of them was
we
dead,
helped
we
them.
didn't touch them.
I mean,
I
we
must
weren't
have read it
fighting
very
side by
differently.
side, but you know.
And
Yeah.
then there's
Oh, yeah.
questionable moments, like when Branos walks up and goes, "All right, Vines, we're not going to be healing any of the Marchers," and all the Vines just go, "All right, f off," as soon as he walked
Mm,
away. And I love that. Like, no hate to the Brenos thing, but like, I see that was the best moment of everyone just looked around at each other like, "What?" And then Gwaine goes, "Yeah, no, don't listen to that. We're not going to do that." Because it's not the way that I see it is part of what makes it important is always the intention and the priority. And you're not a healer with ifs and or buts. It's not that you heal everybody. Obviously, we're not healing the enemy, but that for me was so like, no, the healing is not a tool to be used in any kind of international politics. You know,
mm.
that was just yeah,
Yeah,
we had a few
that's
times
you've
like
got
that
your
where
own
they're like,
perspective.
okay, but not these, and these people. Like, no, that's not how it
Because
works.
one of the things that currently I find the Vines may lack is direct contact with the Thorns. If we are
Hmm.
both battlefield martial archetypes, we do have to. If we are to become both battlefield archetypes,
We
we
did
do
have a
have
bit
to
of that last time
discuss.
where
Yeah,
military council had sent a representative to sit in on Vine's council, and Vine's council sent a representative to military council, or Thorn's council. I can't remember which one, but it is starting to happen. But it definitely needs to happen quicker, I'd say, because it's one of the most important things we're lacking.
yeah. Like the if the Thorns Council is going to organize what's happening with skirmishes and stuff, if that includes the healing, all the battlefield healers are in this other council. How are we gonna have that direct communication?
Hmm.
But this is, personal opinion reaching on in-game stuff. I'm not gonna go too far into that. Of course.
It's like I said before about serving the Thorns battle. Could you swap that out for serving the soldiers of the Empire, typically via healing in battle or something similar?
Actually, yeah, that was the thing I was actually going to touch on. So when we were discussing with the egregore, well, one of the egregores in a little vine circle about what to do with the if we're going to have it as an archetype, what is the core concept? The thing that surprised all of us that the egregore said yes to was we support the thorns.
Hmm.
Yeah, like that immediately had her going, yes, brilliant, perfect, and we were like, wait, is that
But that's
enough for
just
the
a
base?
given as well. Like
That is just a given at that point.
all the healers of the Marchers are going to support the Marcher warriors, and the same thing happens in pretty much every it doesn't mean anything because it's already given. It's already a generalized statement.
Mm.
In my
Yeah,
opinion, at least, it doesn't mean anything.
because it comes into that problem that Navarre has with in general, where it's not necessarily as the way it was written, but it's the way it's been played, where the archetypes start to become one-on-one with just corners of the game.
But it's almost like that with the brief descriptions on the wiki as well, though, because you've got broker, which basically just says you're in between the buyer and seller, and sometimes you can take a cut. Okay, so that's just a trader.
Mm.
A Navarri sworn to
Yeah,
service in battle, usually, but not always a warrior, often tattooed. Well, almost every Navarri wears war paint or has a tattoo. That's just a warrior.
yeah,
Like
it's
there are more nuances to them. I'm not saying they are as they're written, but I think that's what we're really struggling with Divines is to find that definition that fits with the structure of the others when necessarily maybe the structure that's there isn't a very good structure.
because Navarre is in. No, you're so right. Because Navarre is in this really unique situation when it comes to archetypes, at least as I read it, where the archetypes are very vague. In other nations, they're all so specific.
And there's like
You
double the
have
amount. Imperial
Yeah, you
Orcs,
have like
High
Yeah.
Guard,
you have
Dawn
three
have
different
like
versions of
10,
a
12.
fighter in. Yeah, exactly. And as far as throughout the entire game, healer archetypes go, there's only two that I could really find. There's your bone setters in the Imperial Orcs, who the an Imperial Orc Legion will pool their resources on to a bone setter, and they may then act as a broker to
Yeah.
gather even more resources, and they're just
And then
entrusted with the
Grimnir.
healing. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then the other one, yeah, Grimnir in Wintermark, who their identity is very solid in they deny themselves the opportunity to be heroic. They stay away from the front lines. Some don't even carry any weapons with them, so that they can focus on healing. So
Yep.
those are the only other two healer archetypes we have in the entire game. If we want to make one, but the only identity is healer, is that enough? Is that
But it's
or
like
is that
all vines are
Navarre's? Yeah.
healers, but not all the healers are vines, and they shouldn't be, because otherwise it doesn't mean anything. It comes back to that idea of inclusion. Like, inclusion's important, and everybody that wants to tailor their game to being a vine should have access to it. Like, I'm not saying that if you have a physical limitation that there's no way that you can be in some part of vine, but it does mean, like, not necessarily every single person's going to fit within a box, because if that's the case, there's only one big box, and that's not fun at all. Like, that's fun for no one.
Mm. And also
Um,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. You go.
The Wintermark Grimnir. It's the battlefield doctors and healers of Wintermark, Grimnir swear an oath to stay clear of the front lines. If you just
Mhm.
deleted that second half and just said the vines are the battlefield doctors and healers of Navarre, is that giving
That's kind of where
you
we're
enough
at, and it
credit?
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, because
where's
there's
that unifying
battlefield
identity?
healers that aren't vines because they don't want to be, and that's fine.
Yeah,
But
because
it's
that's how
like,
you end up with the healer blob, quote unquote, that
but
we
it is,
started
it's
with.
not just a vine issue. It's just that the vines are the only archetype that's being recognized, but it is still at a point where it's not set. Because the same, if a broker's just a trader and a thorn's basically just a warrior, and then if you go down to the Rushkin ones and you're looking at warden and stuff, yes, you could say it boils down to they're a powerful individual that's willing to fight, and yes, they've got magic, but there's lots of different things. There's lots of yes ands, and then they have their purpose.
Mm.
So instead of it just being like, oh, they're a magical fighter, or they have magic in their armor and they're a fighter, they've got that purpose, they are upholding the law, there's the protections woven into it, and then also having ones that don't relate directly to skills that you take from the skill tree, I think is really important. Like, storyteller is such an important rich one, and considering that Navarre is supposed to be one of, culture is so important to us, and our storytelling and our music, almost everyone except for broker, I suppose, comes down to something that you click. And I don't like the idea of something like the vines that's so amazing that it's found by so many people in play and so many people decide to do it. It's like when I made my character, who's my only and first character, I clicked brand on a drop down menu because I thought you had to pick one. I didn't
Mm.
know what they meant. I
Mm.
wasn't a brand. I had nothing in my backstory that signified it. I just picked one. And so many people do that. I know a lot of people that have done that. Um,
Yeah, and especially with brands here, it's saying who work tirelessly to aid others without fee.
Yeah,
mhm.
I
because
have not seen very many
No.
let's say prosperous brands going around doing stuff for free. I can
because
argue that's not prosperous, but
what's really
yeah,
interesting about brands, and actually most of Navarre archetypes, is that for the most part they're oaths of servitude towards Navarre.
Yeah.
I don't think the brand oath is explicitly an oath of leadership, but in game it's become, oh, your brand is your leader.
yeah,
But the actual oath, the actual archetype, it's really interesting. It's sorry, servitude. It's you're serving your nation, and those who are deemed trustworthy by the nation, people follow, and then they become the leaders. So yeah, the oath you're taking isn't saying follow me. It's the
you're
I
like
will
a
do what I can
specialist
for
in a
you.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you need
Um,
a person who is particularly good at, I don't know, decapitating Valorn with Dornish clothes on, and there's a brand who is specifically sworn to hunt down Dornish husks or something, then they'll obviously lead that mission. But yeah, and I was actually surprised reading this the first time in ages again. It doesn't explicitly say leader. It just
yeah,
says,
No.
it's all
It's
servitude.
it's
yeah,
basically
they are
supporter. We've taken
butlers.
it to mean leader, but it's more supporter. It's more of a supportive role.
And this isn't to
That's
say that people in playing the game are playing it wrong, because they're
no,
absolutely not. But it's
it's
interesting
one
how it's
facet of it, but it's
come to
the
this
one
point.
that's
Yeah,
taken over.
that it means leader when technically it's not. It's completely fine working as the leader role, but
But if you
if you
click on the
dissect it,
guide,
it's not.
And it's the same with the others of like, it's just unfortunate wording because if you click on the guide in the Navarre archetypes, the first sentence on the page is Navarre priests are called guides.
Hmm.
But that's not true, is it? Because not every priest is a guide. But that is the first sentence on the guide page. Navarre
Yeah, as
priests are called guides.
interestingly as I understand it, the concept of a priest, as far as game design goes, was always intended to be vague. So from the get-go, Riffle has been a guide, but I don't bother playing him with he doesn't know religious skills. He doesn't have a congregation, so he's not a priest in the sense of congregation and having synod power. He's not a priest in the concept of priestly skills, but he is a priest in that he is a guide, and the first
Yeah.
line in guide says that they are priests.
Yeah.
Because he's more there for the spiritual advice and help people find their place in the great dance.
That's what I mean. Like, I know
Yeah.
people who play the guide thing, but they're not mechanically priests. But I would argue I know far more priests that do zero guiding, because they're not trying to find your place. They're not trying to connect you to the right people. They're not trying to follow your agenda along and support you in that. They're trying to govern how you are or push you towards a certain virtue. And that's not a bad thing, but it just shows again that maybe the way that it's written down and the definitions we're given are not true to how they're played at all on the field.
Yeah, it's like game design versus like intent versus
Mm,
how it's actually played in the end.
And maybe what we've really stumbled upon, dear friends, is that the wiki is perhaps not the gospel that we
yeah.
want it to be.
But it's just a difficult one when we're trying so hard to define and find the right words for this new archetype. But you look at all the other archetypes and you're like, maybe we should just focus a bit more on all of them because so
Yeah,
far they feel like synonyms.
because I would love the vines to be an archetype, to be this like an option on a drop down menu, a very core facet of Navarre. Um, but if we can't even decide on a definition yet, that doesn't basically make them thorns, but also gives them a strong, unique identity. Because it's the if we go back to the very start of where did the vines come from, it was that buddy system in that one battle that got the commendation of the organization. So are we looking at creating an archetype for the sake of organizing the healers in a effective way? If so, is an archetype really the right way to go? Or do we want to
I also don't think it makes a group less important or less finished or like less whole to not be an archetype. Like I have always been confused. I don't mind the push to be an archetype, and it's given so many people such amazing game, and it was definitely
Oh,
I
definitely, yeah.
would always say I'm glad it's happened, and I'm glad all this politics is happening now because it's, you know, other than my battles, most of my play is quite chill, and this is the only time Aisha has big opinions, and she has a lot of them. And so it's amazing. So if anyone out there is feeling a bit disheartened, like genuinely, this is one of the best things that's ever happened to my game. But I don't think it needs to be an archetype. I think it could be potentially if we worked on it enough and it was polished, not polished enough, but do you know what I mean? We were secure enough in it, it could maybe one day become one. But I don't think it needs to. And I've always been confused as to what we really get out of making it an archetype.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just like a good shiny egg to chase.
Yeah.
I think at where I am now, if you asked me a couple months ago, I would say that Finn and Rifflin are both united in thinking of Vines should become an archetype. I think Riffle still is in that position. Because in a gameplay perspective, why not chase that? Why not just see what you can do?
And also
But out
because
of game,
our
looking at the
characters
wiki,
really want recognition as well.
yeah,
Like,
Mm.
exactly.
there's that bit
But
of you that's like, look what we're creating. But also, OC, you're like, yeah, but is it what it really needs?
yeah, so like OC, I've personally I've got that pride. I got that. Oh, I started this. I was the first one. I gave them their name as a joke, but it actually kind of fit and stuck, and now they're known as the Vines, and I'm proud of them, and I love where they're at.
Yeah,
But
you
like at the
built something.
same
It
time,
doesn't have to be good or
exactly.
have a rhyme or reason behind it. You've generated game for people, and at the most
Yeah.
basic level, you've big thumbs up from Matt Pennington. You've done the right thing at Empire.
Yeah, but I'm now looking at them and I'm like, oh, is this really the right thing to have done? Is this are
Is
we
this
heading
what
in the
I'm
right direction?
creating?
Is this my legacy? like
And it's
Is it
not
too
an
muddy?
isolated feeling. Like, I know a lot of people are like, depending on what this is defined as, and depending on how we as a group react to that definition, will depend on whether or not people unburden their oaths. You know, there are genuinely people that are like, this matters because I don't know if, you know, with some of the things that people are saying, oh, it might say this. I don't identify with some of those things. And I know other people that are like, oh, maybe I'll just go off and be a Navarri battlefield healer then.
Oh yeah, the moment
Like, there are a lot of people that are like, I don't know if I'm gonna take this oath once we get our definition.
because yeah, like sunk cost, I made these things. I made this group. I wanna be there when they're shining in the sun. But like the moment during that meeting discussing the definition, when people seem to be turning towards the idea of heal anyone who opposes the Valorn, that's the moment I was just like, you know what, I might just walk from this. Like this
The
isn't right.
for
This
me,
isn't anything.
the bit for me was we were sat there and we were talking about the Grimnir and the sacrifices they make and how important sacrifices as a nation and how much we do sacrifice. And we were like, right, so maybe that could be it. Maybe that is the thing that finally gets people to understand what we're putting forward. So what is it that we sacrifice? And um Gawain's son, you know, wasn't there, but he'd said to Gawain, maybe we make the oath that if we pass through the gate with our pair, we either come back together or we don't come back. And there was a few
Mm.
people that were like, that's a bit harsh. And immediately my brain was like, no,
But like,
that's it though. It's
because
not harsh.
that
You
brought me back to that first fight I went on with Illy, where we really felt that we are in it together. It's just
Yeah.
us two, and it really brought me back to that. And I was like, and if you're looking at the game, what to me the most important thing is the role play. It's the game, it's the experience. So if you give yourself this goal of I go in with this person and I don't leave without them, that is
can you
a
imagine
beautiful way to play.
how demoralizing that must have been for when, Merlin, when so was it Gawain who said, "Oh, we should have that as
Oh,
our
so
oath."
it was OC Gawain's son who played a Vine character at the time but wasn't at the event, so Gawain said it for him, but it was his words.
Gotcha. Can you imagine being stood at the council and then your partner next to you goes, "Nah, that's bullshit." And you just
Yeah.
turn around,
Nah, I wouldn't die for you.
jaw dropped. You're like, "What? What about
But like
me?"
I've had OC drama with my fine partner Rosie because we just had a few battles where just communication was not there. And I kept going to heal somebody and being like, cover me. And then I'd look up and she just sprinted off somewhere. And I'd be like, what the, what? What? And I was just really, and that's when I really started um, running with Illy and Gweel more because we just worked so well and I was having so many issues. Sorry, Rosie, we've talked this through now. It's fine. And it was all I see, but it was like a little bit of bleed because I was like, stop leaving me to die. I would sacrifice my character for you, and you can't wait for me to finish my 30 seconds of roleplay. Um,
That's why once we're off the battlefield, I don't care if I'm a partner anymore. We've made it back. Go do your own thing. Don't let me get too attached.
but it's that
'Cause-
thing of like waiting, you know, where there's like the two gates to get out, so you're stood by like the stones or whatever
Yeah.
before the OC area,
Mm.
and like waiting there and like scanning through the faces and feeling your heartbeat going like, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? And that feeling of like, I know in my heart that if she didn't have a habit of running off, that like with Illy and Gweel, if I didn't see them come through the gate, I would not be going through the gate. Do you know what I mean? I would stand there until I saw them or until I got killed. Like, and just the fact that there was some people that were like, oh no, that's ridiculous. And I was just there like, really? Is
Have you
it?
never felt
Because there's
love in
some
your
of us
lives?
that are feeling that. There's some of us that are giving that sacrifice. And I just know so many people that resonated with it and were like, yeah. And it was, I don't know, it was difficult to hear so many people be like, that's a bit much. And it's like,
Because
I-
is it?
although like the idea of sacrificing yourself for someone who's already dead isn't the most appealing thing,
But you don't know they're
imagine
dead.
fighting tooth and nail to bring their body back.
Exactly. What a
Yeah.
story. And if you
Oh.
if you, you break into the glade, there they are being
That's the
chomped
thing.
on by a husk, and that's
mean,
how you
Riff
go
wouldn't do
down.
that,
You go
but
down fighting for what's right, not what's
Yeah,
sensible.
so it's not if they die, you die with them. Like if they're dead, you fight to get their body back. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't want, or I guess if you
oh no,
really are
I'd
feeling
leave
hard about
them.
your character. No, but that's the thing. Like that's what I feel is sometimes the difference of some people like obviously you were saying that you quite enjoy changing partners and stuff like that, and I think that's fine as well. But it's just those moments of when you look at someone, you're like, what, really? But like me, Illy, Gweel, and Nayrin, if I'd use the IC name, we had a Facebook group chat for a while called the Murder Quadrilateral, because like if we die, we're just all gonna die because no one's gonna be prepared to leave the other person there.
I love that so
Well,
much.
that's great. There's so much RP behind that, and what's the point in making an oath if you're not going to keep it,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
But that was the point for like Aisha when everyone was there like, that's a bit harsh, and she was just there like the silent paid tear just rolls down her cheek like, what?
Well, Aisha's just ride or die. I love that about her, just in general. But for me, as Finn, I am a sucker for angst. Like, oh, I love the idea of I made it back, but my partner didn't. Like, I wouldn't. I'm not seeking to ever let my partner fall in battle, of course. But if somehow I make it back and they don't, oh, that's angst, baby. I love that shit. I'm an edgelord.
I think maybe we could have a middle.
Would it be what?
Would you shun
Shun.
each other?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, if Finn came back and you saw him, Merlyn, like, where's your partner?
Oh, yeah.
Goes,
It would
oh,
depend,
he's dead.
because I have an in the middle where I'm like, okay, if somebody's dead and there's no way you can get their body back, then it's impractical as a Navarri to just go, right, peace out. But I also think maybe the happy medium is you execute their body so that they can't be taken as a husk. Because I had that at Shadow. I can't remember their name now.
Character 1.
the younger of the burdens. Was my like Vine partner, and we were just struggling with the whole like I'd be healing, I'd look up and they were gone, or
I could tell you my
just
side
run
of that
away.
story. So that was a battle I was fighting alongside you on, and that battle,
it was
I'm not pointing at anyone, but someone's fine partner kept healing an heir of Tarunail who was downed, and I kept picking up and going, stop healing him, we're trying to kill him. And then he kept ending up back there. At one point I was kind of doing a whole like, maybe if he heals him he'll learn his lesson, and then afterwards I found out he died.
But like the best bit was like sprinting, because you know when we all got pushed along the hedge and there was all the refs there going, not in the hedge, but there was that crush to get out, because we basically got bottlenecked midway through the field. And I was there and I could like watch him, and I was like, but I had to move, and Illy was next to me and we were there, and there was just this thick line of Forlorn and then him, and then I saw he had like the vines on him and he was a husk.
Yeah, he came back.
Illy turned to
terrifying.
me and he was like, what do we do? And I'm like, you cover me. And he was like, always. And then we just ran in, like he covered my backs, I killed and executed my dead Vine partner, and we got out, and I just had this breakdown, and then I went back to the Entwined Pass and I was like, I'm so sorry I let your son die. And he was like, did you do everything you could? And I could honestly say yes. And he was like, and is he a husk? And I was like, no, his soul's in the labyrinth. And he was like, thank you. And that for me was like,
because for me, other way, because of me he died. I thought he would learn his lesson, so I didn't bother trying to help him there with the healing that tracer, that turncoat. So I thought I'll leave him to it. He'll come back, learn his lesson, and then I found out he died. So it's he died because of me. Did you do everything you could to save him? No, angst roleplay, baby.
Yeah. See, no, I feel like Aisha's a bit more sincere than Riff can be, and I say that with love. I do, but do you know what I mean? Like you like to have. You're a bit two-faced.
Oh yeah.
And Aisha's just blunt. Like, she is a mallet. If she was a weapon, she wouldn't even be like a warhammer. She'd be like a tent peg mallet.
No edge, all.
No edge, all field.
Blunt damage.
All field crush, all bludgeon you to death.
Because when I lost my memory. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. You go.
Go on, finish the joke.
No, so when I lost my memory, like it was E3 or something, but
I remember.
right, Finn was there. Okay.
Yeah, I was the reason it happened.
You were just on the floor capering around.
You're always the problem, is what we're learning.
Yeah. Okay, so
what
were you doing in the soil, Finn? What were you doing, just capering around like a goblin?
It was. I was walking down the alley formerly known as Murder Alley, and I just saw as this creepy cloaked figure whispering around secrets with a referee following them, and I just kind of went, "This is really interesting. I want to engage with this."
Let me poke it.
Come, come on, buddy. let's go see my friend in my camp. And I found Chris and that lot just all sat around the fire. I was like, hi everyone, meet my new friend, terrifying whispering cloaked creature.
Yeah.
Oh my
He had a
god,
music player under his cloak just playing
yeah.
ominous sounds. Yeah.
Secrets from my master. Like, I was like, he's really hungry for secrets. He'd love if you gave him some. And then 2 minutes later, you're walking away with a lammy, and I'm like doing detect magic. I'm like, oh, what happened? What happened? And I was just like, oh shit, this is really bad.
You
This
are the
podcast,
problem child.
this podcast is OC. No one knows what's happening. You could have simply not told him a secret. To be fair,
Well, I
just
thought
presented
because
you
it's
with an
you, Finn.
opportunity.
Because as Merlyn said, you lack sincerity. I was like, oh, you want? I think I said to the actual herald or whatever it was. I was like, oh, you want a secret? I'm late for going drinking, and then I forgot everything
Yeah.
about who I was going drinking with, the fact I was going drinking, and all of that. That was it.
And then I saw you later on. I was like, oh, how's it going? And you're like, how's what going? And I was like, so which of these is the person you're supposed to be with? And you were like, what? And it was just the way it was like a sitcom, and you were having your little silly little side plot in my story. No offense, I'm the main character.
See that sentence there.
I'm a
100%,
side character and I'm
100%
proud.
riff.
Oh god, it was
You've
so
been
good.
riffed.
Yeah. That is
What
actually.
he
I have
does.
got a general question for the both of you. Is
Mm.
what have your best RP moments been? Now, originally, this I would have had the asterisk of in the vines, but you know, it's a LARP podcast. People listen to this because they want to hear other people frothing about their best RP. So you get bonus points for talking about healing and the vines, but otherwise it is it's an open question.
Who would like to go first?
I'm easy for you two. I'm racking my brain. There's too many.
Okay.
Yeah, I think since Finn is a
Honestly-
minor character in this podcast, you get to go first, Merlyn.
Thank
What?
you. To go back to like Shadow, because that was just so great to come back out of COVID and get like fully back into it, was so Dalphius died at Shadows of a Fallen Queen, and it was amazing because we were having these traumatic wounds that required a mage healer and a physic at the same time, undisturbed, to heal them. So basically, traumatic wounds, you needed the physic, but they were full of winter magic that was like eating away, and it was eating like the herbal healing or whatever. So it was really difficult. And there was one skirmish left, and I'd been on basically every skirmish because again we were always quite low on healers at these player events. And I was like, I'm not going on this one. We were camped right by the gate, so we could like see everyone as they were coming through. And me and Paddy are sort of sat down, blah 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 blah. And then the skirmish crew there's people off on their skirmish come back, and Dalphius collapses right by the gate and is like on the floor dying. And Becca, who plays Ravadi, is freaking out because she's like, I've healed him, but none of it was working. It was just kind of like it slowed the bleed very slightly, but none of the healing was taking because obviously you needed a mage healer and a physic at the same time. And we're both like knelt either side of Kerr's head, and Paddy's there screaming at me, you can do this, Aisha, you can do this. And by this point, his bleed count's done. He's dead. And I'm there like, I can't do this. And Illy's there like, you can do this. We can do this together. And then I just look at him and I just like completely drop Kerr's hand that's holding. It's like, no, we can't. He's dead. He's effing dead. He's gone now. This is it. We weren't good enough. We weren't fast enough. And it was just there like we had this massive big thing. I was like, I go really hard on my emotional roleplay. So I'm there like red in the face, sobbing, whilst Illy's like, it's okay. I'm like, it's not fucking okay. And then Envis, who I met at that event, is this lovely little mage healer in their little autumn leaves cloak, comes up and they're like, hey, it's okay. And I just turn around like, it is not. And it was just hilarious because it was just, you get those moments in Empire. Like, it was an amazing moment RP wise and one of the most emotional times for Asia.
Mm.
But it was also when you get two people on complete different wavelengths. Like Envis is there having a good time, like at one of their first Empire events, like really happy, and I'm there just screaming in their face, like ugly tears down my face, like fake blood dripping down my arms to my elbows. And then Nairin, who's my Vine partner, is just like, give them a moment, and just sort of skirts Envis away whilst me and Paddy are like clutching onto each other, and I'm sobbing, and it was just a mess. But the best bit for me after that was like I find these moments really cathartic. I know a lot of people that struggle with bleed, but for me it's kind of the opposite. I'm like, oh, there we go. Got all my real life issues out with my little screaming match, and now I'm fine.
Based.
But I was staying in a tent with Kerr, so I kept I stuck my head into the thing, and I was like, well done, because he was planning on dying, but he didn't want to purposefully kill his character.
Mm.
It was just lucky it happened. And then I couldn't keep up the sadness after I'd seen Kerr doing silly faces in his tent, so I'd put a blanket over my head called the burrito of sadness because I couldn't stop grinning, but I still had the tear tracks down my face and the blood all over my hands. But it was just great, and it just was a great LARP moment because it felt really real in the moment, but then you still had all the funny LARPness afterwards, which is always good for me because it sort of excludes all the bleed that can happen sometimes.
Definitely, because that's what you're fishing. I mean, in my personal opinion, which will be treated as fact on this podcast, LARP is all about fishing for those real sensations, those real emotions and feelings.
Without
But
all the fallout.
in a world that your friends aren't actually dead, but if you feel like they are, then you get that sick, twisted rush from it, and it's very extreme and very, very exciting. I know
Yep.
exactly what you mean. When you said crying really tears, I was like, yeah, I've had two moments at LARP like
It's great
that.
when the snot's running down your face and you're like, oh
Yeah,
god, this is real. But then it's not, so it's all okay.
yeah, and it takes like
Takes a
5
few
minutes to
minutes.
realize that, and those
Yeah.
5 minutes, yeah, it's strong.
And I have another one, but I'll let Riff go first if he's thought so.
Oh, I would love to have a couple, so this works perfectly.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, Chris.
No,
Sorry.
don't. No, you guys are doing all the work for me. This is great.
So, funnily enough, actually, one of the ones that came to the forefront of my mind also included Enfys. It was like Eerie Light's trial game, just before Shadow of the Fallen Queen, and there was a tournament being hosted, and I convinced Rizart, Dance Walker, and I cannot remember the other guy's name, to join me in a team of 3 to do the team tournament. As the event had gone on, I basically come across a rod that granted me 1 venom per day as if I knew it, because a certain player gave it to me in case bad things happened to him. And I insisted, you should take this back before the tournament, because my friends keep egging me on to venom one of the contestants. And he was just like, nah, it's fine, I'll do it later. I was like, okay, well, when the adrenaline's going and the crowd's wild, don't blame me. And we got to the final, and it's a team with Enfys and I believe the friend who you put down at Shadow of the Fallen Queen, and a third, I can't remember exactly who it was. But just I've been kind of bonding with Enfys through the whole night, the whole weekend. We're battlefield mages, it's fun. And she's scary because she's got a really big staff and she knows paralysis. I know if I'm hit with single paralysis, I'm done. So I managed to swipe in, and I'm just like, this is very dramatic, da fight. And I thought, oh, this would be a really dramatic moment. Everyone's watching. Venom. And she took a step back, and I was like, yeah, go on. And the entire crowd just, ooh, I am the antagonist in this story. It's yes.
The drama.
Yeah,
yes, always yes.
I am a heel in this story. But then I turn around again, and Enfys is bleeding out, venomed on the floor. I'm just like, oh shit, wait, that's not what I meant to happen. So I start rushing over to do a swift heal. But by then, half the audience has already crammed in to heal. And so I'm just kind of standing oh, that went a bit further than I planned. And then I sent to the sin bin, and I was like, wait, you said it was a no rules tournament. We still won, but but the boos were my prize. I live for the applause.
Oh yeah, being the villain.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And then Merlyn, you said you have a couple more, so if you want to take over again, you can. But
You're
just
welcome to go if you feel on
generally just whenever Chris, especially as recently as Lindia, has been up to some shit, I'll always just try to yes and a little bit just to see where it fucking goes. One of my 2 fondest battlefield memories with you is the stealth didgeridoo, in which you were deep behind Drew's lines with this one guy playing the didgeridoo, and you had no armor, you just had a bow and arrow. And I was watching you just
turned up. That guy just turns up everywhere.
He was your ride or die. He was your Vine partner. He had your back. Because the stealth didgeridoo is a very interesting situation. You're behind enemy lines. The enemy hears the didgeridoo playing. The enemy reasonably thinks, this didgeridoo playing behind us surely isn't one of those Imperial dogs because they're behind enemy lines. They don't want to let themselves be known.
And they're playing a didgeridoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shot in the back because they didn't bother turning around because, of course, that didgeridoo is ours. And you took down far too many of them and you made it back through to our lines. And it was just how you pulled off the stealth didgeridoo. Incredible. The two of you did. And then the other one with you in the battlefield was when we went for a bit of a push and you may have taken an arrow to a special place.
Yeah.
And I was
So
just
the
like
the roots of my thorn vine. I don't
and,
know. Yeah.
and yeah. And yeah, you're rolling and screaming and stuff, really leaning into it. And I was like, oh, that's great. I'll start healing you, blah, blah, blah. Ref shows up.
Yeah, he just burst out the woods. I was like, no,
out
no,
of
no, no, no.
nowhere.
I was
Hands a
joking.
traumatic wound.
I'm fine,
And
please.
the moment I was handed a traumatic wound card, I'm like, I am purely a magic healer. I cannot deal with this. So I think it was Illy was my vine partner during that fight.
Yeah, he was
Then
sewing me
took
up.
over, and it was, and then we were just stitching your special place together, and then we as like a
Screaming the
unit of
whole
like
time.
four, screaming, and then as a unit of like four of us, we were just like deep behind the enemy lines. Like that was funny, and now we're in a lot of danger. But then we saw the lines meet, and we just punched through them from behind and managed to meet the lines. It was very triumphant, but also just very silly. I love how you just ham up your role playing when you get the opportunity to.
I love being injured. Injury roleplay is possible. The giggles from
Uh-huh.
Merlyn right there. The injury roleplay is, I think, the pinnacle of LARP for me, because in what other scenario do you get to roll around and making that kind of noise, but without actually being in pain?
Yeah, pretty much
Mm.
always the best patients roleplay rise are the other healers because they're like, I know how good this feels.
Mm.
So like whenever after a battle I'm like dragged to the hospital and I'm there like thrashing, like having a seizure on the bench, screaming my head off, and everyone's just looking at me like, chill. I'm like, I will not.
Oh, see, I love being the patient, but I like to do it in a very riffle way and just being so stubborn and annoyed and frustrated at the situation. And like anyone's like, this might hurt a little bit, I'll do it. Ow, you did that on purpose. Fuck you. Like that kind of back and forth. And like, they quote unquote hate me, but then like after it's like, that was amazing. I love it. I was like, yeah, there you go. Hurt roleplay, so good. Did you? Sorry, Chris. I'm now the host. Welcome to the Riffle and Crack and Crawls Diaries. Merlyn, did you have another very
I
specific?
do, yes.
Yes. Don't let me hog the limelight.
Okay, so there's two, but they're fairly quick. The first one was, so my younger sister comes to Empire, I've taken her to a few events, and she did the like young teen thing of being like, I want to kill off my character for fun and make a new one that's basically exactly the same. And so she went to kill her character off. I didn't realize she was going to do it like as time in started. She sprints across. She didn't quite go into the standing circle because she has some respect. But she like sprints in from like the top gate in the woods, screaming, covered in blood, and just like collapsed down like in between the standing circle and where
Oh my god,
like
yes. We remember this. Sorry,
Thorn,
yeah. She ran
yeah,
past our
where
camp.
they
Yeah.
camp. And she's there like dying, and one of our other group had helped her with the special effects makeup. I was not told any of this is going to be happening. So I see my baby sister sprint through the woods, screaming bloody murder, blood running down her face, collapse, dying, unsavable. Right, and then she dies, and she's just dead, and everyone's still kind of doing standing. And it's just all of our Thornborn stood there, and I like bring her a blanket and we like lift her onto this blanket, and I'm there like stroking her face and like crying onto her face. And then we all pick up a side of the blanket and we started singing like on the wall to
Oh
her really
yeah,
quietly
yeah.
as we like walked her out to a corpse glade. And like that for me was, it's not like a healing moment, but that for me was like, whoa, because it was the closest I've had to like quite big bleed in the moment because I didn't know it was going to happen. And she's my baby sister. Like, she doesn't really role play in her character. Her character has a different name and a different backstory, but it's her.
Mm.
Um,
Oh,
and so that was a lot for me, but just so amazing. And also seeing how like so many members of our Thorn Thang as well were all sort of joined together, and like we all carried her out. There was like 10 people carrying her, all singing to her, and she was like, it was weird, but like so cool. So that one was amazing.
It's when there's a certain like overlap, but like I guess it's bleed or whatever. But when it's your
The
actual
good
real life
bleed.
sibling, when it's your real sibling. So my IRL sister, we play siblings in game. We had this we had this break apart as childhood, blah 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 blah, like lots of bad blood. And then one time she shows up during standing, and I'm like, oh, she's gonna like curse me or something. I'll just get it done with. And then she's not doing it. So I turn around and like she's got tears streaming down her face and is so like this character is pained. And I was just like, oh, you know exactly how to make me feel.
Oh, so
Like,
now I have to be a
oh,
sibling. I get
now
it.
I
I
have to
see
be a
how it is.
sibling. And like it's they're using the real sibling thing, but God, it's powerful.
Yeah, and then the last one was again at Shadow. Like it was just such a good event for me. Um, but I'd gone down, and generally I don't go down that much, but just because of how short we were on everything, and I hadn't got my special mage armor, so I was literally on like 2 hits, I think, at Shadow. I went down and I was there and I was on the ground and I was screaming healer as loud as I possibly could. And then just at normal talking volume, I just went Nayrin, who was my Vine partner. And literally like 3 seconds later, I could feel her hands on my hair and she's like, I'm here. And that for me was like, that just felt like the Vine partner moment of like you're screaming at the top of your lungs, healer, 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 and no one's coming. And then all you have to do is ask, and she's right there. And like that for me was like I literally felt like chills all over my body while she was like freaking out because she's never had to heal me before.
So
So that one
powerful.
was just really good for me.
Mm.
You
Also,
know,
the
actually,
panic of seeing someone you spend so much time with as well, who feels if you're
Yeah.
feeling invincible, I imagine your partner is as well. When you see one of you actually go down, we've had
Hmm.
it in Black Scar a few times. Some of our leadership, they
oh
very
yeah.
rarely go down. There's a couple of times we've seen Lottie, who leads us in the
Mm.
battlefield. He's been fucked up by a Drake or something, and we're just sat there like, what do we do? What the hell do we do? And there's
Yep.
genuine panic in the lines because we've lost our leadership, but also seeing a totem of our community get absolutely annihilated by this guy in a latex suit. It's 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 demoralizing and upsetting.
It is a strange one because I've seen, like, especially within the Fawn thing, I've seen a lot of people get hurt lots. Like, we have certain people who just love it. They love to be injured. They always show up being like, hey, I need help. And that's kind of fine. It doesn't really mean anything to me anymore when Niall comes back covered in blood or, T's covered in blood, it doesn't mean anything. It's fine. Um, yeah, I've only gone down twice since I started Empire, and I've been, you know, 2 years of solid events and some player events now. And so when it happens, I think it freaks people out. And it's not just the healers as well, because I've had it with other people where suddenly they're like, what? Who went down? And it's like, I'm fine now, guys. I survived. But yeah, I went down. They're like, why did you go down? I'm like, because I know I'm a healer, guys, but I'm literally right next to you the whole time. Why would you assume that I never get hit? Like I think they've got that idea that because I'm squishy, which I am, like I'm maxed out at 4 hit points. Because I am squishy, they assume that no one's going to hit me, which is just stupid logic.
Yeah, you're not designed to be hit, so you won't be
Yeah,
hit, right?
yeah.
I don't want to break your LARP primary school heart, but back in the day, sort of it's about 6 years ago, maybe four in game, or sorry, 4 years of actual events.
Hmm.
They actually used to have physic and hospital skirmishes, and
Yeah.
one of them was picking up Navarri Thorns after a Druge ambush. And it was a zero combat skirmish, but it's probably one of the most poignant moments I've had at LARP because I was relatively new myself, maybe about a year in, playing a physic character as my first one. And we go in and there's about 20, 30 crew, and all of them have got, movie grade special effects on them. Uh, I'll talk about R1 in a second, but you've got everything from severed limbs to sort of still bleeding throats and stuff. They've got pumps underneath their bodies, pumping fake blood out of their wounds, and splintered
Oh, for
bones.
a time where the budget was bigger and the player base was
I
smaller.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it was nightmarish in the
I
best way.
live for that shit. I love the gore. It's like when the orc gore cutting off his own hand to open the gateway. Like the gore when they put the budget into the gore. Tell us more.
Yeah, so so it's me and Tadpole, Ben. Uh, we were going on. You could argue in a buddy buddy system because it was just him and I LARPing at that point. And
It comes so naturally.
yeah, and the guy we basically get assigned to, we've got 30 minutes to heal these people up and get them going. Uh, it turns out that this particular crew member is a soldier, or I think like an ex-soldier, and they'd see clearly they knew how to pull on the heartstrings because the volume and the severity and the look in his eyes were enough to unnerve me. Let alone the sausages the intestine sausages that were spooling out of his fake belly, and as we were trying to put it back in and trying to like staunch the bleeding and stuff like that, it was I had blood sort of coated my hand, just a bit above my wrist, and then maybe up to the elbow had splatters and stuff like that, and the front of my armor was just covered, and the whole time he was just screaming and screaming, and every time he said, "Oh, we're gonna stitch you up, you're gonna be okay," and he was just calling for his mother. Um,
Oh no.
it was heartbreaking, and ever since then, and there's a couple of people I know who have been on the receiving end of me calling for my mum when I've been injured. But it's the most it's real's maybe not the right word, but impactful thing I've personally found when you're injured. So I've seen so many casual physics like, oh, what's happened? Are you battered? Are you bruised? And I'm like, I want my mum, help! I don't think I'm gonna survive. We're all gonna die here. And you see their eyes just dilate a little bit, and you're like, haha,
Mm.
gotcha.
The not speaking for everyone who plays a healer, but the intensity of what can happen is just the icing. It's
It's so good.
like there was this it's nowhere near that level, but this one person who I basically convinced myself was actually a husk, as in the way that they described them, they were a husk and they were just keeping them down in the hospital. I was like, I had a talk with this person just before, and now I'm gonna have to go in and just finish the job. And then I just saw their friend just cradling them with tears in their eyes. I was like, I can't even begin to do this right now. This is too. Turns out they were all fine, and we sure, but like at that moment, it's like I'm like pumping myself up to do what could be considered a murder, and then just tears in the eyes. I was like, oh, you know how to pull the heartstrings, damn it! It's the intensity.
Yeah, I don't understand people who go to LARP and shy away from the emotions. Like, I understand it's not everybody's cup of tea, but like there's nothing more frustrating as a healer than when somebody wants to play like the strong, quiet type when they have a traumatic wound or something. Like, if you've taken a few hits and I'm patching you up, you can grin and bear that. But you
Mm.
know how frustrating it is when you're like working with somebody and the physics, they're like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, your lungs are like cut to ribbons. That must be why you're struggling to breathe or whatever. And they're like, I can breathe just fine. And it's like, no, you can't.
You're too
The
stuck.
card says you can't. You're
Stop.
playing the game wrong. And it's so frustrating because you're like, this is all of my game. How you
Mm.
react is my game and you're ruining it. Do you know
Mm.
what I
Look at
mean?
the card. The bees are in your bones.
Like, and they're like, how are they gonna like when I was apprenticing in the hospital and someone had like their lungs were full of honey or something, and I was like, how are they gonna survive? Like blah 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 blah. And they're like, I'll be fine. And I'm like, no, you won't. Nobody in that situation would say that because you
Card
can't
says you're
breathe
dead in 10
and you
minutes.
can't talk, so shut up. Or it's just so frustrating, and even just with hits and things when someone's like, heal me, and you're like, what's wrong? Because you can't see because it's play pretend. And they're like, I'm on 2 hit points. And you're like, right, cool.
Oh, my solution is on a scale of 1 to 6. How do you feel?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, if you had to pick a number between like 1, 6, 1, and 8, like how many times do you think I could punch you in the face before you died? But
Oh,
the point is, it's just so frustrating when someone comes up and they just see you as a game mechanic to boost their health. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
mm.
this is my game, so don't come up to me and be like, heal me.
Well,
Like,
that's where the
I'm
whole oh, you heal me. Okay, beg. That's where it comes in. It's
Oh
like,
no, I've like
oh,
full
role
on
play this
refused
shit.
other
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people's healing before, and it is great, but it's just frustrating when somebody won't play the game with you and you're there like, I know you're the same person, that gently taps people with the side of their blade, or just full on swings. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really frustrating because you're like, you could do
Sell
this
it.
one
Yeah.
thing that would make your game better, and it would make my game better, and it would make the whole world more believable, but you just won't.
Yeah, so I'm like completely boxed out of the I haven't put any points into chirurgeon or physic or anything, so I don't touch traumatic wounds unless I have them.
No,
So
I
like,
only did it when I was apprenticing, and
oh, of
then when there
course, yeah,
was
you're
one
saying just
where
then.
I had to do it was a traumatic wound that needed physics and mage healing at the same time.
Oh yeah, that was the yeah. Because yeah, so as a mage healer, it's very vocal heavy. So I try to like make kind of like rhythmic verses and stuff, and have like oh you can hear the beating of the drums and like it flows. Um, but the people who like respond well to that are still my favorite because I mean I'm just
It's
saying
so
words
good.
until you're better. But early on, the kind of vocals I did were about how like dust becomes dirt, becomes mud, becomes blood, becomes flesh, becomes bones and shit like that, and like
Yeah.
just like
Oh,
this
nice.
and who I was healing at the time just was so into it. He just reached his hand into the ground, picked up like just a fistful of dirt, and just started slapping it into his leg that I was repairing. And I was like, "Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
like fucking metal, let's do it."
A
Yeah.
lot of my healing just ends up like screaming them better. You know, I'll be there like, and when you fight, who do you fight for? And I'll just get them to like name the people that they're scared of losing, or
Mm.
be like, who would you die for? And then they'll be like, my daughter. And I'm like, and can you see her? Can you see her face? Can you hear her voice? And they're like, yes, yes, I can. I'm like, then you fight for her. And then I'll be like, blah, 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 blah. Little bit of my healing stuff, to give you the power from my blood. When we fight for the same empire, for the same nation. When you fight for your daughter. Do you hear her now? And they'll be like, yes, yes, I hear her. I'm like, then fight. And that's great if the person plays into it. Otherwise, you'll just awkwardly feel like a scolded school child,
Oh my god, yeah.
or you just scream in their face depending on how much sort of energy you've got with you. But I
Mm.
just find it so frustrating when you're there putting your all into a role play and someone's like, how long's this going to take?
Oh yeah, no,
Ooh.
I
Has
hate
someone
the
has
i
anyone ever
will i
asked
will
that?
fully walk away from someone
oh
if someone's like, are we done yet? I'm like,
yeah.
no.
No, you know what?
Not
I'm gonna start
anymore.
again now. It takes 30 seconds. I'm gonna play out those 30 seconds or start
Hmm.
again. Yeah, genuinely, when they're like, oh, can you speed it up? I'm like, okay, from a roll, like if it's like, you can kind of tell sometimes it's like in character, like, oh, can you speed this up? You're like, no, I'm so sorry. And I was like, sometimes like, can you speed this up?
Yeah,
And it's because they're bored, they want to
when they
get
say it
back in.
deadpan and they're just like, oh my god, my reload speed on my gun is so slow, kind of thing. And you're like, this is an important thing, and
So,
if you were actually in this universe, you'd realize this is your life or death as well, not just how many times you get hit by your foam swords.
it's like, do you want me to
um
stop? We can start this all over again.
yeah, but I have had it as well where someone will be like quite inconsiderate, so whilst I'm healing, they'll flailing their weapons around, which can be fine, I see, and I'll be like, put your weapons down, or I'm stepping away, and they'll keep doing it, and I'll be like, OC, put your weapons down, like, you've hit me in the face with your spear, like, put your
Oh,
weapon down. And they'll still kick off, and so I've just stood up from people before and been like, I can't finish this, and I've just walked off.
yeah,
Just
sometimes
left
it's like,
them.
I want the enthusiasm, but that's too much. Tone it down a little bit.
Yeah. Well, is that point where you break character and you're like, put your hand to your face or whatever and say, OC, fucking stop it. And they don't, and then you're like, you know what, you can die, that's fine.
Yeah, you're doing the right thing. At that point, it's not
And there's
game
been one
anymore.
or
They're
two
just a dick.
times, yeah, where I've like fully murder camped people, and I've been like whispering to them, I'm like, it may look like I'm healing you, but I'm actually doing nothing. I'm just faffing around, just so you know. And then
I
I'll
am
be there
looting
like,
your
ooh,
body.
ooh, ooh, ooh. And the only reason I'm there is so that no other healers think they need healing. And I'm just waiting for them to bleed out.
Merlyn, are you
Ooh.
confessing to a murder?
Well, not enough details for you to do anything
No,
about
no,
it.
no, no. This isn't
But
respectful.
yeah,
No, no, this
yeah,
is the
yeah,
right
yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
Oh my god, that's great.
100%. Um,
Fuck.
and the best one was, we were waiting to line up, and it was like a high guard Navarre one, and we were saying how many slots are left because they had no healers. High guard had brought no healers, and all the Navarre healers were in a block waiting to be put in the lines, and they were like,
Mm.
oh, F the healers. Why do we need them anyway? And I got on that skirmish, and I saw them down, and they were like, healer, healer, and I was like, nah, mate, F the healers, and I just walked away. I was like, not happening. But as soon as like my vine pair sees me actively be like no and walk away from someone, they're not healing you either. And I'm pretty sure most of my Vine friends are not going to heal you if they've just seen you have a thing with me and we just walk off.
Oh yeah, this episode is
So
about vines.
yeah,
Yeah, your
it's so
vines
great.
ride or
healing.
die.
Vines and healing. It's fine. We're on topic. We're
Yeah,
on
yeah,
topic.
Ride or
and
die.
healing. But
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
healers.
it is great when you can just be like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, especially against high guard.
I will play God if it suits me.
Yeah.
Ah, have you so like let's say asking for a friend. If you theoretically or your friend theoretically was just murder camping somebody as they bled out, would you check their pockets for items while you're doing it? Nice.
Yeah. And if my comrades or anything go down, I'm looting them too because it's what makes sense, and also because I'm poor, I'm a healer. So yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
It was great. I was monstering as a healer last event, and one of the Imperial Orcs, I think it was the last of the Gate Renders, was down and bleeding out, but they were behind the enemy lines, and I was like a slave healer, but I'd run out of most of my healing stuff, and I went over to RP with them a bit as they were dying, and I was like, got anything good? I'm starving, haven't eaten in a week, and I like looted them, and they gave me what's the one that fixes basically everything, the potion?
Oh, sovereign specific.
Yeah, so they gave me a sovereign specific and were begging me, and they gave me a breakfast bar, and I was sat there going, oh, my master will be very happy with this about the sovereign specific, put it in my pocket, and then I was just sat there eating this breakfast bar whilst he was begging me and be like, I don't want to die alone, like I'm not ready to go, and I was like, you're not alone. And then I was like there, like holding his hand as he died whilst prattling along quite happily about my slave life and eating my breakfast bar. And it's great because my partner plays in the Imperial Orcs and he wanted to join the Gate Renders. And I murder camped the last of them.
Nice. Nailed it.
And he's not impressed. But
But you got a free breakfast bar out of it. That's the real win.
I did. The best bit was I was behind enemy lines for ages, trying to kind of draw attack. Like I had no cards left. I was trying to draw attention to myself to be good game for all the Imperials. And I was there like looking really nervous, like full on freezing and doing rabbit in the headlights things whilst clutching my last bit of my breakfast bar and nibbling it like, one last meal before I die. Come on, come on, come on. It's fine, it's fine. They'll never notice. Like I was literally at full volume doing this internal monologue about how they'll never notice that I'm with that orc scum. And they just didn't do anything until I was stood by a tree and I just caught the eye of someone. They were like, are you? And I was like, nod. And they were like, I'm going to kill you. And I was like, can I finish my food? And then I was just there, like, sadly eating this breakfast bar before I got executed. But it was great.
It's probably, I don't know what breakfast bar this was, but they're typically pretty boring snacks. I'm going to go on a limb and say that.
But it wasn't amazing. I think it was like a Nature Valley one.
Yeah, see,
so pretty dull.
Exactly what I imagined. You poor thing. But that is probably the most exciting ever encounter for a breakfast bar.
Mm-hmm.
Like possibly globally. I mean, how many other people have eaten a breakfast bar seconds before they're carved up like a Christmas ham?
They were very polite though.
They
completely waited for me to finish my breakfast bar before they killed me.
I know exactly what sponsor I'm going to go for. I have just looked at the clock and we have been ticking over into 1 hour 33. There we go, 33-minute point.
We should probably move on.
So for those of you listening in, first of all, thank you. But secondly, we were going to talk about.
With us?
Don't.
No, sorry, no. Good job.
Man.
You did good.
Don't you dare.
I support you.
I will pull out your Ethernet cable again. I swear to God.
No.
So we did have a topic switch planned, which was we were going to talk about the Winds of War, Brokeliand, and stuff like that. Shall we end this episode here and then make a separate episode so it's easier to consume?
Yeah, I could
get
behind that. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, and one final question before I hit the pause button. Finn, you mentioned earlier, chase that shiny egg when we're talking about developing plot for developing plot for the vines. What the hell?
Wait, what?
What does that? Is that a comment? Are there many shiny eggs in your life that escape you?
Some questionable orbs. There's no shiny eggs, surely.
that straight arrow that hit you. No. I had like 3 or 4 different phrases in my head, and I couldn't remember any of them. So I was freezing. I just had to mash the words together, and hope that someone understands what I'm saying, and no one picks up on it. So thanks. Yeah. No. Chase that shiny egg.
Brilliant. That is going to be, I think, going to be the episode title because all the other ones have been quotes from the episode. So it might be like Unseen Savior with Matteo, for example. But this is going to be
Yeah.
Chase the Shiny Eggs. What's it like to
Perfect.
be a Vine?
Perfect.
What is our true priority and our true purpose? Shiny
Yeah,
egg chasers.
shiny egg.
Absolutely. And on that eggshell, not quite bombshell, we'll hit it there. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for listening in. And we'll catch you very, well, in literally 5 minutes for us, but I have no idea how long it'll be for you.
Oh my god. That was fantastic. Thanks for having us. And thanks for
Thank
continuing to have us in a second or in an episode's time.
Ah,
Haha.
bye.
Wow.